Yum, yum. I'll be right back. How many I got in here? 4. Beautiful. Let's wait for a couple more people to show up, man. Don't be afraid to hit that like button, fellas. Tonight, I'm going to talk about a guy named Mike Bartosh. The name is not going to ring any bells with anybody. But he played a big, significant part in the life of Barry Mills, in the life of the entire Aryan Brotherhood. Which one, Thomas? Very good, Ellie. Ellie, I'm doing good. Who are you talking about? I want to wait for more people to come in, but what I want to do is I want to, my friend June Cook was not feeling well for, the last few days. She wasn't able to watch the videos. And I just wanted to reach out and say, I just want to say, Judge, how you doing, bro? I just want to say, get well, because she's under the weather and, she's a good friend of mine. She's always here. She's always been supportive of me and the channel. So just like I would with anybody else, I wish her a speedy recovery. Yeah. Anyway, 9 people in the chat. Let me get one more and we'll start. Where the hell's King Kong, man? I ain't seen King Kong in a while. I also haven't seen my buddy from Florida, man. I forget his name now, but I talked to him on the phone a bunch of times. He's a good dude. Anyway, here we go. We're going to start it right now. There's 10 people in the chat. Mike Bartosh. Damn shame, brother. Good dude, man. Real good dude. If I'm not mistaken, Mike was doing like 8 years. 8 years for bank robbery. He was from Los Angeles, right? If you know anything about old federal law, 8 years, you only do a third of that and to become eligible for parole. And you would do 2/3 for a mandatory release. So what is that? 2/3 of 8 years. I mean, generally speaking, people don't get paroles on the first time, even if they're exemplary behavior. You know what I mean? So he probably would have did about 7 little less, 6.5, something like that. I think that's how much time he was doing. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm thinking it was. Could have been a little more than that. Could have been doing 10 years. Anyway, when I meet him, he just came from McNeil Island. McNeil Island is off the coast of Washington State. You got to go on a ferry to get there. I think there were bridges too. I'm not sure. I've never been there. It was a cool prison because, you could sit on the bleachers and watch whales, and stuff, jumping out of the water and stuff. It's very therapeutic, From what I was told, I was never there myself. But Mike, Bartosh, Puppet McKinney, and Barry Mills got in a beef with somebody. I think they assaulted somebody or whatever, and they got shipped out. All right. And Puppet went to Marion. Mike came to Atlanta, and Barry was on what they call diesel therapy, which means, they just keep, putting you in a bus and sending you from one prison to another. So anyway, Mike was in Atlanta with me, and he was like a chill dude, right? I think he was about 38, maybe 40 years old. And he really laid back personality, easy to get along with. Yeah, so one day, this is before I knew anything about the Aryan Brotherhood. I'd heard of them, but I never knew a lot about them at that point. I was in 1978, early part of it. It's maybe 70, late part. Anyway, one day, man, Mike was he was looking very depressed. So I asked him, what's going on, Mike? He said, Barry is coming here to Atlanta. I said, well, I thought he was your friend, bro. Why aren't you happy about that? And he told me, that Barry wanted to make him a member of the Brotherhood. And in order to do that, he had to go on a murder with him. They didn't know which murder yet. There was going to be a murder. He just knew that because he knew Barry. So, to make a long story short, he was only doing a little bit of time. Barry was doing 20 years, which under the old law still ain't a lot of time, bro. You're going to max that out in about 13 years. I know that sounds like a lot, but, it is what it is. You know what I mean? What's up, James? But Mike, he knew that it was an obligated to roll with the homeboy, Barry loved this dude, man. He was just such an easy to get along with dude. But he was from California, and he knew the rules. He knew, how Aryan Brotherhood, he understood all the, and so Barry knew that. Barry knew that he, that he had all the understanding, right? So he was very depressed about that. I would be too, because the way he looked at it, was he was going to get a life sentence pretty soon. And why should he do that? Because Barry wanted him to. That's why. He didn't like that, but he was under an obligation, and he couldn't turn it down. So, long story short, right? Barry gets there, right? And anyway, long story short, Barry gets there. I get a murder case, all right? And I leave. I go to, I'm in the hole. I go to Marion. Barry seemed to have some sort of magnetism and charisma. Yeah, man. That's the truth, bro. That's the truth. Okay. So after I left, here's what happened. So I wasn't there when it happened, but obviously I know what happened. Wilson, how are you, bro? Thank you. So Barry took him on the first murder. The first murder was, I told you guys about it, Harold Stanfield. Harold was like 6'6", very aggressive. Like I said, he sold heroin because the first time I met Will, what's going on? The first time I met him, he was standing on the second tier in D cell house. And he was talking to two black guys on the first tier. And here's what he said to them. He called them the N-word, right? Two of them. He said, come on up here, both of you, you know. No, I don't know that. The Chogies, no. And they said, no, we don't want any problems. You know, because the guy was kind of big and very, very aggressive, right? So people, if you owed him money, you were going to pay him. You better pay him, you know, unless you were Barry Mills. You know what I mean? That's how it was. Barry told him, you know, he owed him a lot of money. Harold Stanfield allowed him to get some credit, and Barry paid him. He got more credit. He kept paying him. So as things went along, he developed trust. And so Barry got the bill up pretty high, and he decided he wasn't going to pay him anymore. Okay. I think to the best of my understanding, Harold made, you know, some type of a comment like, I need my money, buddy. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I got to have my money, you know? And Barry said, no problem, bro. We'll pay. I'll pay you. Don't worry, I'll pay you. And he paid him with steel. Okay. Mike grabbed one arm, I think. It was Mike. I don't want to say all the people that were involved. Why? I'll talk about that later, Judge. All right? Remind me. They went on a murder. Barry killed Harold Stanfield, brutally murdered him, man. Brutally murdered him. And that was a big man right there, you know. Everybody sits up and takes notice when you do something like that. They lock him up, put him in the hole. But in them days, you could only hold a person for 2 weeks in segregation. If you couldn't write them an incident report, you had to let them out. After that murder happened, they changed the rules. Now for investigations, you could hold a person as long as you needed to prove that they were, you know, either involved in what they said or not, and then they'd have to release them. But if they were, they would write them a shot, which is an incident report, and refer them to the FBI. So when they killed Marsloff, that was in the rec shack bathroom. Mike Bartosh was there. Okay. So they got, Mike really didn't take part. He was in there with Barry when he was like, he was just there, you know. And Barry cut the dude's head almost off his body. Barry said he was shocked that the knife did that. He said, man, I didn't expect, I didn't expect to cut his fucking head off. You know what I mean? He didn't know the knife was a dangerous fucking weapon, I guess, everybody had one of these fucking bone crushers. Very sharp, big knives, heavy steel. And my understanding was that when Mike Bartosh witnessed this, he went over and threw up in the fucking toilet. Yeah. But anyway, who was it? Danny Halliday. They call him Doc Holliday. He was supposed to be watching make sure nobody came in the bathroom because they were in the bathroom. He didn't know they were going to kill the dude. They didn't tell him that. They told him they were going to put a tattoo on him. And that's what they told Marsloff. He was going to go down because they live in different cell blocks. So we're going to go in the bathroom and put the tattoo on you. He went in there and got his head cut off. The reason they killed him was because he stole drugs. He got some drugs on credit from Tommy Silverstein in Leavenworth. And he checked in. He didn't want to stay. He didn't have the money. So Tommy called, they had a system where they could get messages back and forth. They would call the people on the street. The street people would call Barry, or they would just have a connection. Very simple. So Barry took care of the same. He did. Tommy was his brother, so he killed the dude for Tommy, basically. And to make a long story short, after they both got sent to Marion to the control unit, and that's where I was because I had my murder case. Me and my co-defendant, my cell partner. No, I don't know that. You're saying that John said that? Thank you, Jim Joyce. Thank you very much, homeboy. Thank you so much. Hold up. I don't think, I doubt very seriously whether John said that, but I will ask him. No. John will be calling me a little later. I'm pretty sure he never said that. But anyway, plus John wasn't even there, man. John, I'll tell you a good story about that tomorrow. John was in Atlanta for a couple of weeks. He came down to testify in a murder trial for a guy named I'll think of his name in a minute. That's not part of the story, so let me finish. They get to Marion. Now, they never charge Mike with that murder. But they charge him in an institutional way. They charged him, by writing him up and sending him to the Marion control unit, right? So he was there with Barry and the rest of us for murder. But when Barry got indicted, he wasn't in the indictment. Why, I'm not sure, but Anyway, to make a long story short, Mike eventually went to general population after he finished the control unit sentence. I think he did like 18 months in the control unit. He gets out in population and he's on the weight pile, pumping iron. I salute, Jose. I salute. And he dies of a brain aneurysm. Right? Such a good dude, man. Barry was willing to drag him into a murder that he didn't want to have anything to do with. He was lucky that he didn't get charged with the murder. He would have got a life sentence, just like Barry did. But it wouldn't have made any difference because he ended up dying anyway. You know, so it was sad, you know, but that's how it went. I'll tell you the story about a guy named Christ. I can't think of his name right at the moment. Hold up. I'm gonna tell you something. It wasn't in Leavenworth, bro. It was in Lewisburg, Will. It was a very sad situation. I seen the body. I saw the body at the bottom of the steps, knife sticking out of his back. It was terrible, man. It was. It's a complete surprise to everybody, Kai. Complete surprise. You know, very big surprise. Jesus Christ. I can't think of it again. I'm going to think of his name. Hold up. When you're trying to think of something and you can't think of it, the harder you try, the more you forget, right? Anyway, the guy I'm talking about, the guy whose name I can't remember, that was the guy that John Greshner came to Atlanta to testify for. Okay? Yeah. Yeah, says it all, doesn't it, bro? Yep. But remember what ended up happening to Cadillac Smith? He paid. He paid with his life. And it was a beautiful thing to behold. Anyway. Paul Myers from Boston. Ring a bell? Paul Myers. Paul Myers. No? No. I don't remember that. Anyway. Okay, so what happened was, you're talking about Atlanta, the Cubans. I'll address that right now. While we were in Marion, they had the Cuban crisis. The Murielitos came and they dumped them all on the. Well, they put most of them in prison because they were fucking crazy and they were dangerous. They were just crazy, man. A lot of them were homosexuals. I'll get to that, Jim. Was to call them as a witness. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Yeah, they did. They did. Yes, they did. So after the police got murdered in 1983, they took Clay Fountain and sent him to Springfield, Missouri Medical Center. They put him on 2-1 East and gave him a big cell. I think they put it like an exercycle that they had bolted to the floor, and that was his recreation. He never came out of that cell. They fed him in there. There was no shower in that cell. They bring him out for a shower 3 times a week, lock him in the shower, handcuff him, bring him, and that's how he lived his life, and that's where he died. He died there. I don't know how long he spent, like 20 years in that cell, and he died. Tommy, who they thought was probably a big influence on other people, they sent him to Atlanta. At that point, the Murielitos had come. They took out all the inmates out of Atlanta. They had a skeleton crew. By that, I mean they had guys that they absolutely needed to have jobs that would, help the prison function, okay? Because you couldn't ask these fucking Murielitos to do anything because they were crazy. From what I understand, they would be fucking each other, right? And the cops would walk by and catch them, and they'd just laugh and keep fucking. It's crazy, right? They were awesome. They would throw shit. They were doing nuts. They were just crazy, man. They had no morals. They had nothing. They were, a lot of them were just sick people, man, I guess, they were just fucking crazy. I don't know how to express it anyway but that. But they said that they were going to take them and send them back to Cuba. That's what kicked off the riot. They didn't want to go back. They would rather stay in prison for the rest of their life in a U.S. prison than go back. Because the prisons over there, here's what they would do. They would bring a big pot of food in. They'd set it down, right? The toughest guys in the prison would eat the food. The rest of them didn't get nothing. So they didn't want to go back to that. You know what I mean? They felt better by, being in an American prison. They know they can eat. It was a much, much better prison, and they would rather be there. So they didn't want to go back. Okay. From what I understand, I don't know if this was true, but a lot of times when they would send people back to Cuba, Castro would just execute them. See, he didn't want them. When he dumped them on America, he was done with them. If they came back, my understanding was he killed them. I don't know how true that was, but I heard that. So they took over the prison. It was a big riot. And Tommy was released from his cell. Excuse me. Tommy was in what they call AWB, Associate Warden's Building. Basically, that's what they call the hole. In Leavenworth, they call it 63 building. Leavenworth and Atlanta were built on the same blueprint, okay? With very, very little, almost exactly the same, okay? So they let Tommy out. Tommy's roaming around, right? He's looking for a way out. He wants to go over that wall. He's trying to figure out how to do it, okay? In the meantime, the FBI has, they're reaching out to the men who are, the ringleaders. They're negotiating with the people that had common sense, right? There's a few of them that had enough common sense to be able to, talk to the FBI and deal with them, to make their demands understood and what their fears were and why they didn't want to go back to Cuba. And the FBI said, listen, guys, we understand your problems, all right? But before we can do any type of negotiating, you have to get Tommy Silverstein and bring him to us, because he's a threat to all these staff members that you have hostage. If he touches a hair on their head, there's not going to be any negotiations. We're going to come in here and kill everything that moves. So if you think if you want to make a deal with us, if you don't want to go back to Cuba, we'll definitely deal with you on that. We don't have a problem. But the first thing you have to do before we can consider your is you got to bring us Tommy Silverstein. First and foremost, he is a threat to the life of all staff members. He's already killed a staff member. He killed Merle Klutz. He killed like 3 other inmates. He killed one in Leavenworth, who used to be my cell partner, Danny Atwell. He killed him. He killed another black dude from D.C., the one he strangled through the bars. That was another one. I forgot his name. Started with a C. Christ, what the fuck is going on? This fucking thing's right in my face. Do you guys still see me? Christ, that thing popped up in my face. I couldn't see. Anyway, Chappelle. He killed Chappelle, right? Then he killed Cadillac, which he did everybody a favor. We killed them. And then he killed the cop. So they said, listen, bring them to us and we'll start to deal with you. So they went on the lower yard. They surrounded him, right? They had handcuffs. They took the handcuffs from the guards, put his hands behind his back and cuffed him and brought him up to the FBI, right? And after that, they said, here he is. Yeah. Can we do business now? That was it. And then they took Tommy and sent him to Leavenworth, and they had a cell in the basement of Leavenworth. And he stayed there for a bunch of years. And then eventually they sent him to ADX, and he died there. But that was it. That was the story about him, man. How he, but that's how they got him. Atlanta Federal Penitentiary. They surround the Cubans, got him, brought him right to the FBI. That's what happened. Yeah. Okay, let me read some comments. All right, let me start. Yeah, so you know about the Cubans. Is that the way AB was able to see each other in prison? I don't understand that question. Oh yeah, that's another good point. Whenever somebody had a murder case, they would call, everybody for a witness. Yeah, okay. Standing by for which one, bro? The food thing. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Yep. Atlanta was a big joint, man. It wasn't a bad prison, bro. Lowrider. What's up, Lowrider? Anyway, you were talking about so we're talking about how the Mexican mafia took, how they. Somebody asked me a question, how the Mexican mafia and the Aryan Brotherhood got hooked up, and why they weren't hooked up with Nostra Familias, the Northerners. To the best of my understanding, the Northerners accepted blacks into their gang, right? Norteños had black members. Sureños didn't, and that's how they got together. Aryan Brotherhood, they represented the white race in a big way. And the Serranos felt the same way, and they and they behaved the same way. Tell you something else. This is a good one. Shit, what was his name, man? He died a few years ago. Champ Reynosa. Champ Reynosa. This is a great story. I should do a whole segment on this alone, right? Champ Reynosa was Puppet's co-defendant on a bank robbery in West Covina, California. They took $40,000, which was a lot of money back in the early 70s. That's like $250,000 today. You know what I mean? That's the Mexican Mafia and the Aryan Brotherhood. That's one thing. Tommy killed Chappelle for the Eme, for the Mexican Mafia, because Chappelle had disrespected one of the Mexican Mafia guys. That's it. He killed him for the Mexican Mafia, not for the Aryan Brotherhood. They had an understanding. They would kill somebody for the Mexican Mafia, and the Mexican Mafia will kill somebody for them. In other words, if I can't get to you, my boy can get to you. Okay? So that's the understanding they had, and it worked. You know, Barry was hooked up with a guy. I forgot the Mexican guy's name. He was hooked up with a Mexican guy. I think they killed somebody in San Quentin together. I forgot the guy. He's Bobby Castile's cousin. That's just two examples of the Aryan Brotherhood and Mexican Mafia interacting with each other in murders. Okay? That's the kind of shit that that's the glue that held them together. You understand what I'm saying? I'm trying to think of other situations like that, but I can't right now off the top of my head think of any, but there were others. So yeah, they were very close, very close. But there were times when they weren't, they fall out over drugs and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, for instance, who the hell was it? Puppet killed this guy. Puppet was going home, man. He kills the guy. He didn't give a fuck. Who did he kill? Jesus Christ, I can't remember. Him, Pigpen, and Stan Pierce. The guy was a tattoo artist. I forget his name, man. Shit. Anyway, they pretended they were going to get a tattoo, right? Went in the cell. Guy held him down. Puppet came in, killed him, right? And Stan Pierce snitched on him. He rolled over immediately. He became a government witness. I don't know about Pigpen. I don't know if Pigpen did or not, but they give him a life sentence, right? And they sent him out to Lompoc, which is kind of crazy because if you kill somebody and marry him, why would they send you to Lompoc? But they do stupid shit like that. Anyway, he was out there for a couple of years, and he had this homosexual in his cell with him, and He used to bring the sissy to the fucking chow hall, to the yard. And the homeboys were like, "What are you doing, motherfucker? That's a homosexual, man. It's all right if you sneak around and get a blowjob, but don't bring them to the fucking mess hall and have them sitting at the table and bring them to the yard and all that. That's not cool, man. You know, what are you doing, motherfucker? You know." Anyway, they killed Puppet for that. They beat him to death with baseball bats. I think he lived for like 30 days. And his sister, told him go ahead and pull the plug because it didn't look like he was ever going to come out of the coma that he was in. So he was dead, He was already dead, but he was brain dead, So anyway, that was that. Trying to think of the guy's name, man. Who the fuck was it? I'll think of it, man. I can't remember it right now. Let me see if I got any more questions here. Anybody ask any more questions? Hard times, yeah, especially okay. Baltimore, Jersey. Yeah, that dog food's garbage, dude. You should see the shit they're selling here in Philly, man. Bro, it's garbage. We had a big conversation about it today. Yeah, Puppet was one of the originals. You'll see his picture, man. There's pictures of him wearing a fucking stupid hat in San Quentin. King Kong, man. You're back, homeboy. What's up? Yo, what's going on, bro? Don't kill yourself over there, you know what I mean? It can get better. It'll be better. Okay. Alvin Ray. Alvin Ray had the same situation as Puppet. Same thing. Having the homosexual. But see, Alvin Ray was getting a lot of heroin. And the AB felt like he was, he had the sissy in the cell. He was getting the sissy high all the time. The fellas thought that they weren't getting their fair share. So they killed him. That was Alvin Ray. There you go. So I don't know. Anybody any questions about anything? Donald? What's going on? Dude, I lost a lot of weight, and I don't even care about that. I feel good. I'm eating healthy now. You know what I mean? It must be getting better, man, because I'm bopping around. You know what I mean? I had a blood test the other day. It was up to 11 and a half. It should be between 13 and a half and 16 or 17. And it's in my prior videos, Wilson. You just have to go back and look for it. Yeah, bro. This Fetty is garbage, bro. They put some shit in this motherfucker, man, that had motherfuckers hallucinate. Yeah. Whew. Fuck that. Where's this? Rebel. Where's Rebel? Henry. Who's Henry? Oh, the most famous. Bro, there's so many of them, bro. Kensington. I don't know any of them guys, bro. No. Anyway, famous people. You've heard of the French Connection, right? Well, there was a whole bunch of. There was the French Connection, probably 10 guys, maybe 20 guys, and they were spread out all over the federal prison system. Sonny Francisi, I lived next door to him. Him and his cell partner was the other little guy with the fucking crooked arm. I forget his name again. The one that Rob Rosso talks about all the time. No, there's serial killers. No, I don't know of any serial killers. A lot of big mob guys, man. A lot of Al Benton was. I liked Al. Big Al Benton. Mike Bart. You know, them guys were them. Those were the cool AB guys, man. Puppet. I like Puppet. Eric. You know. You think so, hard timer? You think so, huh? Okay. I ain't gonna dispute that. You know what I mean? J-Cat, huh? It is what it is, man. The most serious ABs are in ADX. They're there and they're never getting out of there. All right. So they can't really present much of a threat to anybody. What's his name? Oh my God, I can't think of his name right off the top of my head. But he's out of ADX. He's across the street in the other penitentiary. So he's got room to move. You know what I mean? He's not slammed all the time. Feds? Where were you in the feds, Donald? Everybody knows who he is, man. When Barry hits, everybody knows Barry, bro. Yeah, hit the like button, guys. Come on. Chris, there it is. Christopher, right. Snail's not in ADX anymore. He's across the street. ADX is the Supermax. He's in the Max, right across the street. Not much of a difference as far as security goes, but he's in a general population. He can move around, he can get high, get drunk, shit like that, you know. Oh yeah, AB ain't no joke out there, man. I'm gonna be real honest, bro. I don't know TD Bingham very well. Yeah, he's got to be old, man. Yeah, Snail's got to be pretty old, man. That's the craziest thing, bro. Lowrider. He's been there since he went to trial in 06. This guy's not a threat. I know the guy. You know, he's in his 80s now. I don't know why they got him there. No, I don't have any stories about TD. Frank Clemente. Not sure, bro. Jesus Christ. I could think of some other guys. Let me see. You know, when you try to think of something, well, from 78, 79, Tallahassee, bro. Terre Haute, Lewisburg. All right. No, sir, I wasn't. Who wants to be? I mean, think about it, man. Sahakian, yeah. David. He's dead. Really didn't know him. I didn't know him very well. Yes, sir. They were, dummy. They were. The Southern boys, man, did that. The Southern boys, they were good at that, man. They would rob banks. If they get caught, they would bond each other out. Sometimes they break each other out. Straight up go in, just take. They would do it in small counties in the South. Jails were like Cracker Jack boxes, you know, and it was very easy to rob banks in those days in them small towns. Uh, and if they got caught, they would go to jail. Somebody would break them out, bond them out. They were really a good bunch of guys, man. They looked out for each other. I had a lot of respect for them. You know, there's probably guys watching me right now who remember what I'm talking about. The Southern guys were I respected the fuck out of them. Treetop, Kenneth Woods, a lot of guys. Who's Ed Rudolph? Who's that? Who died before he got out? Who? Who are you talking about? Who died before he got out? I've heard of Richard Scuteri. I've heard of him, but I'm not sure who he is. Was he with some like organization that was I'll tell you in a minute. Wait a minute. I'm trying to get this guy Scuteri out of my head. Was he with the business like robbing armored cars? He was the Order. Yeah, I remember that. I think he was in Lewisburg. Worst Fed prison I was ever in was Marion. Marion, the worst. Dangerous prison, man. Very dangerous. That's what I heard. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know Scuteri, but I've heard of him, you know. The last 5 years of I loved Raybrook. Raybrook was sweet. My God, that was so good, man. Yeah. That's where I met Carmine Trattora. I was his cell partner. Who was it? Fuck. We talked about him. Turquette. Who was Turquette? What was his first name? I forget. Can't remember. We used to cook big meals. We had pasta every night, sausage, meatballs, cooked like a motherfucker, boy. The cell situation was gorgeous. It was nice, man. It really was. They built Raybrook. They built it, Lake Placid, where they had the Winter Olympics. When the fuck was it? 80? When was the Winter Olympics? When was the Winter Olympics held in upstate New York, Lake Placid? That's where Raybrook is, right? So what they did was they built the prison, had all the cell blocks, and the athletes that came over from different countries, they put them in the prison. It wasn't a prison though. At that point, it was just a bunch of units, you know, with cells. You know, they were comfortable. It was single cells, you know. And right after the Winter Olympics was over with, they put up fences and they put guard towers, and they went from Olympic Village, yeah. and then they put double bunks, then they made it a prison. Good food. Uh, they had a little place like right next to the commissary where they had like vending machines and stuff. You could have like rolls of quarters, and you could use them in the vending machines. So if you wanted to buy some dope from somebody, you would meet them down there. Like let's say, he was in a different unit. You want to buy some, you come down there, you get the drugs, you give them the money and shit. But pretty cool, yeah. Sweet, yeah. Yeah, so Raybrook was nice. My last 5 years in Pekin, Pekin, Illinois, sweet prison. That's where I met Lebanon prison. Nah. What's that, Rob? I mean, Rebel. Neil Bumgardner got iced. Yeah, I remember. Okay. Bumgardner, right? I heard he was running his mouth, man. I heard this is what I heard. I heard he was saying shit like, Cadillac committed suicide, man. Cadillac committed suicide. He was making, remarks about Cadillac being killed, and they weren't appreciated. There was also a situation where they say that, I don't know if it's true or not, but Neil owed money for drugs. But I don't believe that, because if you get in debt for drugs, right? The last thing a person wants to do is kill you. All right. If you can't pay, right, and you owe, and you come to the dude and say, shit didn't work out the way I thought it would. I was expecting this. I was expecting that. It just didn't work out. Can we do something? Can we, work out some type of a deal? I'll pay you so much every week until the debt is paid off. Wouldn't you rather do that? Wouldn't you rather, get some money coming in every week? Or would you just rather go out and kill the guy? Think about it. You know what I mean? People think people get murdered every time they owe money and they can't pay. It doesn't really work like that. The only way you're going to get killed is if you just disrespect the people that you owe. If you just don't pay them and just act like you ain't going to pay them ever, you know what I mean? Then you might get killed. But most people would rather, am I right, Donald? You know what I'm saying, right? So, people saying Bumgardner owed money. He probably did, but that's not why he got killed. He was running his mouth. It was racially motivated, man. Who would have what? Who would have what? Oh, no, I didn't do time with Larry Hoover. The food is, I keep hearing that the food in the Fed suck. I did my best in Lewisburg. What do you mean, bro? You were there. You should know. You say the food was bad in Lewisburg, bro? Little Matt and Clay, who knows, bro? They were friends, though. Yeah. Okay, so you're asking me. Well, you said the food sucked, bro. You remember that? I know you remember this, Donald. They had them good pork steaks because they had the pig farm out there. Remember that pig farm, man? They had lots of good pork, and of course the Muslims don't eat pork, so I get in the Muslim line and get everybody's pork. I get, it was one of the best meals they had, bro. It was good. It was good, bro. Pork steaks, rice and beans. Whew. I wish I had one right now. I love that shit. Makes my, anyway. Little Matt. What a dangerous little fucking dude that was. Whew. He killed 3 people in Marion. In Marion. Over about a 10-year period. Oh, yeah. Did you see the murder, Don? Did you actually witness the thing? No, you didn't see it. You were just there, right? Talking about them subs, bro. The subs. Yeah. Suboxone's a big thing in the penitentiary now. They're small. You can hide them easy. And, if you're sober and you take about an eighth of a strip, you're fucking pickled. You know what I mean? What was I? I'm thinking of something else. I'm trying to think. Shit. Yeah, the food was great, bro. I understand shit got fucked up after 2005. They started. They now they got a different type of menu. I think they got outside people. What's the name of that outside prison that sells food to all the prisons everywhere in the country? They made a living off of doing this. I forget the name of the company, but they provide the meals. They're ready made. Okay, Siciliano, huh? Danny, thank you, bro. I heard the food. I got out in '03. After that, I was still talking to people, and they were telling me, man, that the food just got fucked up. Common fare, Mo. Yeah, man. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Oahu. What's your question? I've only known like a couple of ABs. They were good people, man. They were quiet, They didn't do a whole. They lifted weights. They had their own little clique. They wasn't involved in any murders. Uh, they just do their time, bro. That's all I can say. Oh, really? Yeah, the food in the feds was great, bro. Uh, Fucking great. You know, I stayed I stayed full. I never had a day where I wouldn't, where I went hungry in that motherfucker. You know what I mean? I'm gonna tell you guys a story tomorrow night. Marion, I did about 7 years in Marion. I was there twice. My first time was for the murder. The second time I bit off my co-defendant's ear and flushed it down the toilet. He died. That was in 85, right? He died in 89, right? And everybody said that everybody said he died from rabies. They said I gave him rabies. They were just kidding, though, you know. They were joking with me. They were busting my balls. Yeah, man. I do remember. I was on Common Fare. When I was in the hole, I went on Common Fare in Raybrook, you know. And they used to, you know, put shit in, you know, because, you know, there's only a few guys getting Common Fare, right? So they put the, you know, under the food, you know. They were going to take me downtown, but he wouldn't testify, you know. They were going to charge me with maiming, M-A-I-M, maiming. You ever heard of that? Maiming is like when you disfigure a person. 78, saw on a piece of met Peg Leg Morgan. Did you really meet him, bro? Oh yeah, I know him. He was I was in Atlanta with him, but he came to Marion after that. He had a guy killed there. He had a guy named Mike Martinez. He got him murdered. A bunch of Mexicans. He sent him. They killed the guy. Yeah, he did. Remember that? I beat him to the punch, bro. I did that shit before him. Most I weigh is like 170 pounds. Yeah. Orange County Jail in California, huh? What was 78? See, I'm gonna tell you something, man. Joe Morgan wasn't doing a lot of federal time. I don't know what his sentence was, but he didn't do a bunch of time. He was in Atlanta, he was in Marion, and I guess after that he went to the feds. I mean, he went to the state. That was a crazy. He was involved in a lot of murders, man, a lot. I mean, on the streets and in prison. Um, Chino, getting some sun. Dallas Scott. Yes, I do know Dallas. Of course I know. I'm gonna be honest with you. Homer Ray I thought he was kind of an idiot, you know. Oh, you talking about Lewisburg, bro? You talking about just the basement in Lewisburg, right? All right, see you later. I'll see you later, Wilson. Yeah. Well, that's what they use. They use the basement for disciplinary segregation. You know what I mean? You talking about Eddie Gooch? Yes. Who knows Eddie Gooch? Who knows that? You don't know Eddie Gooch. How do you know Eddie Gooch? His name's not George. It's Gooch. Gooch. He has a wife. Anyway, forget all that. But yeah, Eddie Gooch. Yes. Yes, I know very well. Yeah, it was cool, man. You know, Gooch was all right with me. He was a straight shooter. He told me one time, man, if you start any shit in this fucking place, I'll beat your ass. I said, all right, boss. I ain't gonna be doing nothing wrong. He was all right. Well, tomorrow I'm going to talk to about I think if I can't remember the guy's name right now, but it's a good story. I'll start a new good story tomorrow night. All right. Anybody got any last questions? Hit your like buttons. Gooch, that's how you spell it. Yeah. Right. Okay. All right. All right, guys. I'm going to shut this down right now. Uh, Thanks for hitting the like buttons. I appreciate that. And let's say get well to June Cook, man, because she's a little bit under the weather right now. I hope she gets well soon. All right. Respects to her and to all the rest of you guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow night.